Hello everybody, can everybody hear me? Hello? Good morning everyone and a very warm welcome to BMA House for the Sustainable Events Lounge. It's fantastic to see so many familiar friendly faces here today and equally to welcome those joining us for the first time. Before we get started, just a quick note that there will be refreshments available at the back of the room throughout the day, so please do help yourselves. I'm also delighted to share that the Sustainable Events Guide is now live and available to download for event industry news. If you'd like to hear more about the publication or explore how you can get involved, please do come and find me or Kitty. We'd love to have a chat. Thank you to the wonderful venue BMA House for sponsoring the guide for the 6th year running, and a special thanks to Rebecca and the team, who are always such a pleasure to work with. A special thank you to the Company of Cups, Jacobs Massey and LSB Photography for their continued support, and a very special thank you to Matt Gray and Emma from Event Decision, who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make today happen. And of course, thank you to the panellists and the masterclass hosts. I know they've got some really great, insightful, inspiring lessons lined up for you today. So without further ado, sit back, relax and enjoy. Thank you once again. I'll hand this over to Matt. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Morning, everyone. Don't sit back too comfortably, because this morning there are a few things for you to do. Wow, what a view from up here. I might move around a bit. This is the 6th year of the Sustainable Event Guide from Event Industry News. I got an email this morning from the team there, so please do take a look at it when it arrives, if it arrives in your inbox. If it doesn't, chase up Beth and Kizzy, they will. We have an agenda. Let's see if this works. Oh, it does. Yay. We've done the breakfast bit. 9 o'clock, opening remarks. So I've got a few words to say in just a second, but some housekeeping first. The fire alarm is a continuous electronic bell, which I can't impersonate. So if you hear one, that's what it is. There's no test due today. So if it goes off, we will be exiting via, I love this bit, the doors at the back and the doors at the side. I'm sure the team will help us evacuate if needs be, but there's no tests due today. If you want the Wi-Fi, it's called Visitor, and the password is BMA House 1832. That's big B, M, A, and H, and then House 1832. That is the housekeeping. This is being filmed and photographed. If you have any issues with that, again, talk to the Event Industry News team. So, today, thank you for coming. It's a relatively small community, event sustainability. There's actually a really wide section of representation here today, from venues, from agencies, from suppliers, and maybe a corporate or two. So do take the time, there's plenty of time this morning to go and shake some hands and introduce yourselves to others within the community. I've got a few minutes to kind of take us through either the state of sustainability, which is quite a middle of the road, percentages of this, percentages of that talk, or to deliver a few words called the comfortable lie. And I can't decide, and I asked my kids at dinner last night, should we go a little bit left field or should we just do what everyone's expecting? So can we actually, I can't believe that this was my 17-year-old's suggestion. By show of hands, who'd like the middle of the road, percentages here, percentages there? Oh, sugar. And who'd like the comfortable lie that we're all telling? Marvellous. Okay, so I'll do that in just a sec, just to whet the appetite. It's probably not going to last a full half an hour. So timings can be flexible this morning. After me, we've got questions to the panel. We've got 3 really experienced panelists from different areas of the events industry. Of course, we've got some pre-prepared questions. We're event planners. But there is a Slido opportunity as well. So don't throw us under the bus, but ask us those questions that you've always wanted to. It's not going on the screen with your name, but they will be moderated, so be nice. And you really can. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Anything that you've really, really wanted to know, we are going to do our best to help you out on that front. Followed swiftly after that by a masterclass. Now, we're going to do one masterclass per table. There are 7 topics. We'll put them up in due course, and each masterclass is about 30 to 35 minutes of a specific area of event sustainability and responsibility. And it's your chance to hear from someone who literally does just that thing about how perhaps you can do that thing a little bit better. Those are the masterclasses, then a lovely break, and then the team hackathon. And I suggested this to Beth a little while ago, and she said, look, the tech industry's been doing this for years. They pose a problem to the experts in the room. That's all of you, by the way. And then we give you a little bit of time to try and solve it. So we're going to do that. It's a table-based exercise. I won't say if you're actually competing against one another, but the main aim is to examine what a group of experienced sustainability folk do when tasked with an intractable problem. Because, of course, that's what we are every day, posed with these problems. Events cause impacts, both positive and negative, and it's our job, and I imagine everyone here has something to do with sustainability. If you're not, you're in the wrong room. If you're a doctor, you need to go to a different room. Is to try and deliver these things just a little bit better in E for environment, in S for social, and G for governance terms. So the hackathon's going to actually result in a white paper that's going to go out via Event Industry News at some point and say, this is what a group of event sustainability people designed and delivered for this problem that our colleagues, and let's face it, they're not aliens, they're just people like us in possibly shinier buildings, have to solve every single day when their stakeholders say, we're doing this or we want to do that. And how can they do that to the best of their ability? So that's what a hackathon is. Let's crack on. So yeah, there were actually two versions of this. I'm not lying, they're all true. We're going to go for the comfortable lie that we're all telling. Because the reason sustainability, I must say these views are my own, the reason sustainability keeps going and keeps coming back and keeps evolving and the pace of change is insane, is that it's not easy. If it was easy, we'd just click our fingers and deliver this stuff and everyone would show their percentage improvements in environmental terms or in social terms, and then we'd all go home with a badge and feel great. But events don't work like that, do they? Because every event is entirely different and we're all building completely different supply chains for every single gig that we're tasked to put on. So there's plenty to talk about, and the reason there's a panel is there's this divergence of opinion on some things. Last October, there was an event called the Sustainable Event Show. I know some of you were there, some of you may not have been. And the content there was a series of 1v1 debates. We tried to just get a little bit of difference of opinion. Given the audience was interested in delivering sustainable and responsible events, like hopefully you guys are, some of the results from that event may surprise you. Venue sustainability was narrowly voted by the audience to have a greater importance than travel. Bizarre, given the relative size of emissions, but not if you take into the social effect. The event sector was voted a passenger and not as a driver in sustainability. And net zero was voted, well, it wasn't, but net zero is a toxic brand in events, was the debate title, was a draw at the Sustainable Event Show. So it's not always as simple as we think. The audience could not decide if the term net zero was applicable in a positive or negative way to events. So it's not easy. So I could stand here and sort of regale you with conversations about the conference sector has reduced its per delegate emissions by 2.4% in the last 12 months. And we can all go home and pat ourselves on the back. But it doesn't work like that. So the odd percentage change here and the odd percentage change there is great. And we all know that we can measure this stuff. But is it going to change our behavior, and is it going to help us change our agency or our venues' behaviors? Is the main question. So I'm not going to do that bit. I'll do 5 points. Because we see a lot of data at Event Decision around carbon emissions, but also around social value delivered during the course of events. And that data, it doesn't really care about your intentions. It doesn't care about your policy. It doesn't care that you've switched to bamboo straws or you've changed the menu. The data, or it doesn't even really care what awards you have. The data only reflects what actually happened on an event, like this one. Like we're standing in an EcoSmart Platinum building. The AV company, I don't know their credentials, that's awful. I'm sure they're brilliant. But when you deliver events, there's this whole supply chain that is kind of your responsibility. And the data just tells you what happened, what actually happened across events. And is this industry, I think this industry is doing really, really well at the easy stuff. We pat ourselves on the back and sometimes completely ignore the harder and potentially more meaningful work. 5 points. Some of you will agree with some of these, and some of you may not. So be gentle. Point 1, carbon. It's the comfort blanket that we should throw off. The rest of the world uses the acronym ESG to look at sustainability and responsibility. From the European Union level with CSRD, the UK, and even like big-time investors, they look at their targets and their portfolios in terms of E and S and G, not just in terms of carbon. And our industry's relationship with carbon is really complicated. Not because it doesn't matter, because it absolutely does, but because we're somewhat obsessed with it, and it potentially prevents us from looking at sustainability more strategically. So the data shows that events action a far larger proportion of environmental factors than they do social factors. And I think that's one thing that we should look at. And when we look at why, it can be revealing. So they're often venue-driven, compliance-driven, supplier default. And most of the time, events are not making a sustainable choice at all. They're passively receiving someone else's infrastructure. Examples, the venue has motion-controlled lighting. The venue has a waste contractor. The venue can produce an energy consumption report. The AV team uses LED lighting. Table centers are from the UK. The vinyl wraps, I don't know, but I didn't see them being thrown away. Those are the conversations that happen, right, on the floor in events. And you've ticked your box, and you've got your score, and your certificate goes out. And that's great. Or is it? Because you can contrast that with the social value that an event can deliver. Actions about who you employ, where they come from, who you buy from, what impact your event has on the community in which you're putting it on. Events that consider both of those elements are systemically rare. And we've measured many, many, many thousands from large and small. So we've got an industry that has built a whole ecosystem of carbon calculators and offset providers and net zero pledges and sustainability awards around a thing that sort of happens automatically. Yes, carbon is legible, it has a number, it has units, you can calculate it, you can report it, you can mitigate it, you can, all those wonderful things. Social value is harder to scope, harder to quantify, brilliant to talk to procurement about, but we keep talking about carbon. I spotted yesterday, actually, on Monday, and I don't know if this is good news or not, but on Monday, Microsoft paused all carbon removal credit purchases across the world in both nature and engineering. It just stopped. I do not know why. I had a look yesterday. If that's a harbinger of trying to do something political in the US or not, but Microsoft accounts for 90% of the carbon removal market. And Monday, 2 days ago, they stopped. It doesn't make it the right thing or the wrong thing. It's just, this is evolving. So from a different angle, the Birmingham Com Games, I know Event Cycle had something to do, yeah, you were involved in that, weren't you? That delivered, in 2022, not that long ago, £1.5 billion of social value. The Women's Euros that same year, £600 million. Paris 2024, £10.7 billion of social value attached to the delivery of an event. But on a smaller, more understandable scale, and this is an example, I'm sorry if you've heard it before, but it's kind of more relatable at the level that I work at anyway. In 2023, a corporate client of ours took 100 insurance brokers to a hotel in Liverpool. And the hotel went, no, we can't let you take any food off site. It's a liability risk. And the corporate went, we've got a supplier. That one was Olio, but there are others. We're going to reuse our leftovers. Thank you very much. We'll assume we've got an insurance policy in place and so forth. They fed that night 35 families with children who wouldn't have had a hot meal, just with leftovers. It's not the Olympics, but to some way it's more emotive and engaging. And we should and can be helping our stakeholders internally and externally, all those people that we do events for, to actually do more. That's one thing out of maybe 10 that you could do on the majority of events. And it hardly costs any money. And watch Olio, they're later this year going to launch a kind of DIY version of that you can book yourselves. They've got really great ambitions. So I will bet that you could do at least that and a couple of other things on every single event that you put forward and actually deliver real value. So event profs mostly at the moment address their own company performance, and few systemically look at the events that they deliver. Suppliers can say overall event performance is the responsibility of the event owner. Event owners say that the performance is a function of the supply chain. And the actual result, how sustainable an event is, falls through the gap. It says, insert event decision sales pitch. I'll skip over that bit for now. So my challenge to every single one of you, next time you sit down with a client for a brief or with a supplier with a brief, ask yourself honestly, is carbon the sole and most important sustainability and responsibility question on the table? That was point one. They're not all that long, don't worry. Point two, reactive or responsible. Very few of you, and I know because I see the metrics, have seen the Event Decision blog, This Box is on Fire. It's my challenge, see if you can find it on our website. The spirit of it is, we have become extraordinarily good at checking boxes. Sustainability policy, supplier sustainability questionnaire, tick, carbon calculated, maybe. Offset certificate attached to post-event reports? Probably not. But are we responsible? What an example was delivered last week by Wireless Festival, sadly. So don't ask them, don't ask Kanye. And it's not just festivals. Total Energy and World Rugby, Shell and British Cycling, they're both events chasing sponsorship dollars, taking money from the people that they potentially shouldn't be. Tesla, Salesforce, South by Southwest, they've all had very interesting speaker choices. Or COP, where there's, their partners in the fossil fuel has almost discredited the whole event. It may or may not happen going forward. That's just my view. That's not official policy. With or without current US policy. And yet, we, as an event profs, we faithfully take these on and deliver these events, turning a blind eye to the actual, real, massive issue in the room. Although, just to counter that, Event Decision's seen more engagement from US agencies in the last, where are we now? 6 months, shall we say, of the current term, than we have in the entire 3 years before that. Doesn't quite make sense. We think the agencies want to show a responsible and sustainable product, regardless. They don't serve the federal government, so they want to show their customers what they're doing. So ticking boxes and being responsible are not the same thing. Responsibility is not a compliance exercise, it's a set of choices that we often have to make under pressure when it would be easier and cheaper and more convenient to do something else. So compliance is almost a bare minimum, not the destination. When we look at these wonderful things, they're not sold on compliance, they're sold on aspiration. Toyota launched the Prius in 1997. Half of us weren't even born, I would wager. To do that, they had to redesign the entire supply chain. We'll come to paradigm shifts in just a sec. So when you're pitching an event, which are you trying to sell? Kind of a compliant eco hatchback or something with more va-va-voom. And it is possible to do the latter and still be responsible. Take back to your desks. What would happen in your organization? As I keep seeing people thinking, I think, oh, your organization, because I know you work in them. If you or a supplier's sustainability claim turned out to be a little overstated, is there a mechanism for it to matter, or are you in any way accountable? Are you being responsible? Points get shorter. Point 3, the age of altruism is dead. And this is probably the most uncomfortable truth of them all. Sustainability positioned as a moral obligation has failed to move this industry. Not because we're bad people, any of us, but because that's not how humans change their behavior, of which there is a masterclass later on. Don't buy this jacket, say Patagonia, to great effect. Enrich, not exploit, say The Body Shop. A better life, say IKEA. Love your home, says Ørsted. We've reduced the carbon emissions of this event by 5.2%, excluding flights, say the event salespeople. Massive difference in how we approach this stuff. I'm sure you can guess which one was the event one. 2 out of 3 of us, consumers, that's all of us, rank sustainability as a top 3 value driver. But we don't act. We'd like to think we do, and perhaps in this room because we hear we do, but consumers don't act that way. They act sustainably not because they're told to, but because when they want to, when it's frictionless and it's a responsible but easy choice. So we should stop selling sustainability internally to our organizations and externally to our clients as a sacrifice. We need to start positioning it as a smart, premium, forward-looking thing. I'm lucky enough to sit on an industry awards panel at the moment, and so we've seen quite a few submissions, probably from some of you here. Good luck. We've delivered 5.2 megawatts from our rooftop solar array in the last 12 months. Great. What does that mean for your event buyers? Why don't they write, we are self-sufficient in clean energy, and when you need it, where you need it? And just make it a little bit more aspirational, rather than factual and sacrificial. Point 4, you think you have time and you don't. We've looked at some paradigm shifts from the last, don't worry, you won't be able to see all the words, or maybe you can, because this screen is so huge, from the last 100 years. Cars took 45 years to become mainstream. Air travel, 46 years. Think of how they sell both of those products, by the way. You don't see car adverts for people sitting in a queue with annoying kids going, I need a wee, in the back seat. It's all open roads and beautiful mountains and children and mountain bikes and stuff. Mobile phones, 20 years. AI, 8 years. Sustainable events, well, maybe 13 years. That pattern of adoption is getting faster and faster and faster. About halves with every generation. Because each wave kind of runs on infrastructure from before. There weren't car-worthy roads before cars. There wasn't a fast enough internet to allow us to do a Google Maps to the BMA House before there was, and then that was developed. Sustainable events don't need new technology. Like, we need a framework and a reason to move forward. And some of that's in place. So ISO 2012 has been around for 40, well, it's developed for 2012. It's been around for about 14 years. Other forcing mechanisms, SECR here, CSRD, name an acronym, but in the EU, that's coming. I'm sure Chrissy on the panel, who's our accreditations expert here, will be able to tell us that CSRD is landing on enterprise clients now. This last month, ratified, this month, active. And that's going to work its way down the supply chain, and that means to us. So our analogy in sustainability, it's not the car piece, regardless of the emissions piece. It's probably mobile payments. Does anyone remember a checkbook? I bet half of you don't even remember checkbooks. Cars and bigger infrastructure had years to build, like a moat, they call it now, like barriers to entry. and we don't. First movers in mobile payments had 5 years before the market started consolidating. So the question is not if you will need to do this stuff we're all here to talk about today. It's whether you want to be at the front end or the back end. And the time is now. Because the last piece, which is, I've got it, the accreditation trap, is we do need a shared language, whether it's ISO 22121, CSRD, Green Torres, OMB, Corp EcoVadis, CDP, SBTI. We could literally just write the alphabet out, couldn't we? That would be fine. We need something that says we take it seriously. That means hard work, that means money. But in some respects, accreditation has become a ceiling masquerading as a benchmark. So here's a distinction. Many accreditations tell the outside world, we have a system, we have a badge. Performance management actually tells your clients whether it's working or not. And they're very different things. So an organization can be ISO accredited for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. That's fine. Without actually improving a single thing. Badges are awarded, procurement boxes ticked, incentive to push further slowly dissolves. And we've seen it at the beginning of the process in the Event Decision Power 30, which is our recognition scheme of highly performing agencies. The top 30 agencies have held exactly the same number of accreditations since the start of that. And actually, even the grades within some of them, the gold, silver, bronzes, the overall numbers of golds and silver and bronzes in, I think it was EcoVadis and one other, B Corp, has stayed the same. Which points at, are we just going, great, we've got a badge, and we're going to carry on? Because accreditation, once you've achieved it, can remove the pressure to improve. So accreditation is like an institutional version of the comfort blanket. It lets us feel we've arrived somewhere, and the whole point is that there is no destination. This is a never-ending road. So we don't just need more certificates, we actually need better mirrors. So I started saying that data doesn't care about good intentions. And I do mean it. I'm not questioning your motivations or your intentions. The reason a room full of event professionals cares about sustainability is because you care. And you're here. And that's great. So there's no question there. The problem might be about the framework and how we approach the issue. And one that lets us feel like we're doing okay when actually there's a huge amount more to do. The industry is shifting. Data's showing it. Regulation is coming, but it's got to work its way down from the enterprise level. And genuinely sustainable and responsible events, they do exist, but they're still frighteningly rare. And they're still delivered because someone chose an uncomfortable path before the market forced them to. So the event profs that looked in the mirror and they decided to do the right thing, not the easy thing. So I started saying I had 2 versions. That was actually the medium one. I'm not brave enough to do the really angry one. That's it from welcoming remarks. Hopefully there's a few things there for us to think about. It is now your chance to interrogate some of the experts. We've got half an hour or so to talk to Chrissy, to Sue, and to Aaron, which, given how far away we are from you all, you might want to start making your way up now. So we've got a high-performing agency, a consultancy that probably knows accreditations better than almost anyone else, and another consultancy that sits in the measurement and accreditation space. So, please welcome our brave panelists. Here we are. There is, I think, a slide. Oh, there is. There we go. The opportunity for you guys to fire us some questions, which we're all nervously anticipatory. Okay, and we can see those here, so that's great. Before we crack on with any questions, please introduce yourselves. Aaron, why don't you start at the end down there?
Hello everyone, I'm Aaron McGurk from Chorus Agency. I work within operations and culture at the agency with quite a wide remit, but one of something that we're all passionate about in the agency and have become quite a leader in is looking at how to make our events more sustainable. So I've been lucky enough to be charged with creating our sustainable event management system, which I shall talk to you guys a little bit more about today, which is aligned with the ISO 2012-1, which Matt was just speaking about. So yeah, really fun stuff, and really, you can get really creative with everything sustainability.
Thanks, Aaron. Chrissy?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chrissy Beck. I'm the founder and event sustainability director at World's Better. So we are a sustainability consultancy that specialises in the live events industry. I delivered events myself for 20 years and got quite disheartened by how slowly we were moving towards a more sustainable industry. So 4 years ago, set up World's Better in order to try and move us along faster. We work with businesses all across the events industry ecosystem, so we work with suppliers, venues, agencies, corporate event teams, and even large-scale events themselves. And we do all sorts of different pieces of work. At the moment, it tends to be a lot of certifications, and as Matt mentioned, yes, I have a head for certifications at the moment, but we also do other things like training, development of sustainability strategies, corporate carbon emissions measurement and net zero road mapping. We do event sustainability consultancy and much more. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you.
Good morning. I'm Sue Robinson from Green Gauge Solutions. Just a little bit about my background as to where I got to where I am now. I actually came up through a venue background, not a sustainability background, and then worked for a travel management company in supplier relations and joined Green Gauge 5 years ago now. And Green Gauge initially set out to be a sustainable events agency. And then, probably a little bit ahead of our time, and immediately COVID hit. Obviously, terrible time to set up a new business, but immediately could see that there was no way for event planners to be able to identify hotels and venues that were on a sustainable journey. And hence, we started the certification, the EcoSmart certification for agencies and for venues. But unlike any other, just very small sales pitch here, any other green certification, the certification part is the initial stage of a partnership. So we need to find out what you are doing to then help you progress. So the EcoSmart certification is my role within the business.
Thank you, Sue. And I didn't actually introduce myself at the beginning, so I'll take the opportunity now. I'm Matt. I'm part of the team at Event Decision. Event Decision is a partner for responsible and sustainable event delivery that we support 150 or so agencies and 50 or so corporates and venues looking at responsible delivery, the actual product that they deliver, rather than the company that they are themselves. We do that through the use of two tools: Track, which is a carbon measurement service, which makes it different to others, and Impact, which looks at, as I said briefly earlier, the E and the S and the G in relation to an event. Not your company, but your product that your customers actually receive. So, you guys are good. There's some questions in already, but I don't want to throw these guys under the bus straight away, or at all, of course. You would expect us as event profs to have discussed one or two areas that we think might interest you first. So, bear with us. We will get to yours. But the first question we thought might be interesting is, what would you say is the most pressing sustainability issue in our industry right now? I'm going to let you decide in which order you want to go, but I'll look at Aaron.
Yeah, I can start with that one. And it's something that we've been recently addressing in our agency. We're a small boutique agency, and we all are passionate about looking after our events as sustainably as possible. And we've developed our policy so much that we went from a holistic point of view to a quantitative point of view. And within that, everyone was charged with looking after the sort of tracking of their events and the case studies. However, we started to notice that the case studies that were created, sometimes we'd have freelancers on the project, sometimes we'd have different new people coming into the business that are less up to date with the way that we run sustainable events. So an issue that we have, and that might be experienced by some other people in the room at the moment, is this idea of inconsistency, which we've been really working hard to address, and we've recently partnered with Event Decision for that particular reason. So what that means is that we are now trying to build a more accurate source of truth for our data. Everything within our sustainable event management system is now sort of streamlined, and every single project gets the same treatment and the same output of data, same sort of social governance as well. So yeah, that's something that we're working hard on at the moment.
Thank you. Chrissy?
Most
pressing issue.
Most pressing issue, and mine, sorry, is a lot broader. I'd say there is a lot going on in the world right now. There is so much uncertainty. There's some orange man over in America who makes decisions that impact so many things internationally that has an impact on every single industry. And I would say this is probably for some of last year and for this year, the biggest issue is that our industry is being impacted by these huge economic issues going on in the world, whether that's our clients delaying decisions being made about when they want events to take place, delaying spending money for fear of needing it somewhere else in their business. It's having so much impact on us, which obviously slows down our progress in areas where they might not seem like the highest priority. So a lot of people that we work with, they come to us sometimes and they say, we haven't got much money, we haven't got much time, what is it that we can do? So I guess my solution for that is to just try and think about what you can do, what is within your means. If you implement sustainability through all of your decisions, and you know, Aaron's got this amazing sustainable event management system, that is a great way to implement that across a business. But if you don't have the luxury of that, where can you implement small sustainable decisions along each step of the way that help you build up and build something great? Because you know, you've got enough on your plate trying to navigate all of these potential issues. The cost of everything is going up, timescales are getting reduced. It's just about embedding sustainability in your everyday decisions and taking those things as they come.
Thank you.
I'm going to completely agree with you, Chrissy, as the easier option. Obviously, a challenge is the wider uncertainty out there and actually gaining commitment towards sustainability and embedding it in everything that you do. A big challenge out there, I think, is evidence-based sustainability reporting. That there isn't the transparency out there at the moment that we need, particularly around Scope 3 emissions. And clients are really wanting robust data, and actually being able to measure that across the board is very difficult without the resources.
Thank you. My answer to that question is I think we could become more practiced at bringing this forward, the whole sustainability and reporting piece, into the pitch process, rather than treating it as a post-event hygiene item, which I know not everyone does, but we know it does happen that, oh, we've finished the event now, we're going to reconcile the budget and do the carbon report and then move on. It is possible to bring this stuff far further forward and give it more value which I think a number of clients, we know a number of clients really appreciate, for agencies and venues to demonstrate forethought and open up the discussion at the planning phase rather than post-event. You're all brilliant. We've got lots and lots of questions. What I think we'll do is, not to just put these guys completely on the spot, is answer one more question, and I'm going to give you the question from these guys to think about while you're answering one that you've already thought about. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Great. So you've asked before, who was responsible for calling out supplier claims that may not be true? My question is, how can we do that in a robust way, or robust verification as an agency? So have a think about that while we ask, actually, are there any, and what fundamental sustainability standards should we all, as event people, be looking to achieve? Should we get in reverse order?
Okay. I think, as Matt mentioned in his introduction, I think there needs to be a strong focus on social value, including things like local sourcing, inclusivity, community impact, and if we as an industry could all align to a clear net zero strategy, but it needs to be backed by measurable evidence and reporting.
Absolutely.
I know in this room we've got such a diverse mix of people, some that are right at the beginning of their sustainability journey all the way up to, experts and consultants. And I think when I try and think about sustainability standards that, suppliers and planners should follow, I think there's different ones for different steps of your journey. And short, sharp and sweet. If you're a beginner, really easy way to apply is just think about reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce what you're producing, reduce what you're purchasing, just try to responsibly use resources. Reuse, try and think about how you can hire over buy, or anything you might have in storage that you can reuse. And then recycle. Any waste that you have good waste management processes on site, and try and segregate your waste as best as possible. Then for those at a medium level of sustainability in our roles, try and use a basic, better, best framework. So what should you be doing on every single event? 3 streams of waste segregated at every event, 0 waste to landfill, whatever that might be. Just think about what you should be doing on every event, what is slightly better than that practice, and then what is best practice for what you can apply in the types of events that you organise. And then advanced, ISO 20121, Sustainable Event Management System. That is the best framework that exists for us as event managers to work towards as an example of best practice.
Thank you. And Aaron, you've got your own framework at Chorus. Mm-hmm. Is that because you didn't see one externally that met your needs? Is it doing everything you need it to?
Yeah, it was like a culmination of all of those things. It sort of it was basically a beast that we just started to feed, and now it sort of serves us. But to answer the wider question, I think with the supply chain, it's just looking for those credible baselines, not these long wish lists of different things that they're hoping to attain. And getting to that point where everything that we or they are doing can just be a rinse and repeat. It doesn't need to be all singing or dancing. As long as it works, it's credible, there's data behind it, and you can evidence it, you're going to be fine. I think when you start to standardize too much, it can be hard to apply that to every single event. It can be hard to change its shape and size. So if you create something that works, then run with it.
Thank you. And that has somewhat segued into now we're into audience questions. But there's quite a few of them. There's probably like almost one per person out there, so I'm afraid we won't get to them all. So we've got till about 10 past 10. But we can get through a few. The first one I mentioned before, supplier audit, verification of claims. Who is responsible for calling out, assuming if we even choose to call out? Do we have, or is there best practice in this, or should we be helping? Should we be beating our suppliers? Bearing in mind we are all also suppliers as well as clients. Any thoughts?
Well, I think it's an issue that needs to be taken extremely seriously, actually, because as there is a lot of incorrect green claims being made out there. And that's to protect you as agencies and as hotels and venues. I think that's where certification really plays its role. We are accredited by B Corp, and we will be accredited by UCAS as well. So we offer a certification. That certification is third-party audited by another party, by a company called From Now as well, so that we will help organisations to protect themselves from the new EU claims directive that is coming out in September this year. So it's certainly an issue which needs to be taken very seriously.
But then ultimately the buck stops with the agency or onto the event owner? And do you need to verify and assess your supply chain for every single
You should
event?
be, really. There are things that you can do as the organiser, as the procurer of your supply chain, whether that's inclusion of sustainability-related clauses in supplier scopes of work, contracts, POs. It may involve you conducting some audits every now and then to ensure that your suppliers are behaving the way that they're saying they're behaving. If you, for smaller agencies, this is difficult if you don't have a full procurement team, but ensuring that you have a robust procurement process where you are assessing your suppliers on their credentials, on their certifications, on their net zero roadmap and performance, but you are continually assessing them as each year that goes by to ensure that they are progressing. That yes, as the purchaser, and you acting on behalf of your clients, yes, you are responsible for ensuring that your suppliers are doing what they are saying they're doing.
Yeah, I tend to agree. At Chorus, we meet bi-monthly, and we do a sort of stakeholder review looking up and down the supply chain. During the procurement stage, what we do is we try to get everybody's, insurance docs, all of their evidence of sustainability, and in those bi-monthly meetings, we sort of review who we've worked with on projects to that date, how well it was working with them in a human way, looking at their policies and seeing what they're claiming. But I would just change the sort of approach around it to be like, obviously keeping them accountable, but also bringing them along the journey. They're also learning, and we tend to say at Chorus, don't shout them out, bring them alongside, that sort of thing, because it's all a human thing, isn't it?
And if you think about the types of questions that you might get asked by a potential client in an RFP, some of those procurement forms are incredibly comprehensive. I can see Marie nodding because she knows. If you imagine that's what they are expecting you're potentially doing on behalf of your supply chain. So you need to be acting like that middle person and ensuring that everything is procured responsibly.
Nice. Yet that takes time.
Yes.
And time costs money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which leads to the next question, which is, funnily enough, both on our list and someone has sent in, which is fantastic, is sustainability is a matter of culture. How can we influence decision makers to see sustainability as an addition to our offer? And I'm assuming whoever put that in means then rather than just a cost. Is that one of the biggest barriers to engagement? It's a question I know we see in these situations a lot. Barriers to engagement.
Yeah. I think sustainability is often seen as a burden rather than actually sound business sense, actually. And it really does support resilience of an agency and needs to be reformed to offer long-term value. I appreciate there are a lot of people here from smaller agencies, and you don't have the resources to commit to this area, but it is a long-term investment, not a short-term fix, and I think it needs to be reframed in that way.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And Livy will be running a masterclass on behaviour change. She's absolutely the specialist in this area. So go, if you're more interested in influencing behaviour change, definitely go to Livy's masterclass. But I think trying to get that buy-in and trying to reframe and kind of blast through those barriers for achieving or obtaining buy-in for what you're trying to achieve, it's about bringing those people, speaking to those people in a language that they speak. So if you're trying to convince someone in a marketing team to either give you more budget or to let you apply sustainable practices, it's how is what we're doing going to increase brand reputation or reduce reputational risks? Or if it's someone financial in your finance team, it's what cost efficiencies can we make here? Or if we do need to spend a little bit more, what are the long-term cost efficiencies and value you can get from these decisions? And I also think I worked as a corporate event manager for a really long time, and often you, as an event team, end up like a totally separate entity or a silo within this big corporate, and you don't really have any connection to your corporate sustainability team in any way, shape or form. So potentially it's bringing your corporate sustainability ambitions and goals and making them relevant for your events and kind of tying them together. So kind of bringing those people on the journey with you and trying to create that value rather than seeing it as this additional burden or something that might, decrease the experience for your delegates. That's not the case. It's just connecting all of those dots.
But I think also a sustainability team can't sit completely separate to the rest of the organisation because it affects so many different divisions, including the HR teams as well. Because I've been in the industry for a long, long time. I had no education throughout my school years about sustainability, whereas the up-and-coming generation, they want to work for organisations which align to their own morals as well. Mm-hmm. So I think for future-proofing the industry, it's really important. And as I said, it affects every area of the organisation.
And we're seeing that in data of what the expectations are of delegates that come to your events. People expect visible sustainability practices when they come to events now. They expect to see good waste management. It's nice for them to read commentary around what's being done and how it's affecting the positive impact of this event. Things are changing as new generations are coming through and up the ranks. Delegate expectation is changing too.
Mm. I tend to agree with what you're mentioning about the marketing department and showing how it benefits them. But what you'll find is when you're creating your system or working along your peers to bring in sustainability, if you're at the beginning of the journey, is you'll see how your existing processes can just be interlaced with all of the things that you need to be doing for checking off things for sustainability, and how everything can just go hand in hand. So you're not going through a project timeline and then going back through it again for a sustainability point of view. All of those key things are happening at the same time as you progressing the project design, event design. So it all sort of comes together. You don't really need to put too much effort in once the system is fed and serving you.
Absolutely. And I think there's a reason I put that slide up about paradigm shift and how long it takes. I mean, how long have we been in these current roles around sustainability, responsibility, or whatever we call ourselves? It's not that long in the big scheme of things. And the position and the proposition will evolve. So a barrier to entry, I would just say, try and treat it, and this isn't easy, I don't find it easy either, is to treat it as a value add, something that they really, really want. And an example is I sat the other month in a big consulting firm in one of their posh meeting rooms, and it was the events team. And then they said, and we've invited our sustainability lead for the whole firm to come and sit, at which point I was like, well, my God, I'm going to get out-sustainabled. It turned out that the two had never met and never talked. And we see, we're in events, and it's our world, and it's a big world. But it's not always compared to our clients. And they potentially haven't got their ducks in a row even as much as we all have with our maybe supplier audits and our maybe barriers to entry and all that stuff. Actually, you being in that room and doing a pitch and talking about some of this stuff, or having your client visit your venue wherever you sit in the ecosystem, you can actually add some really good value rather than having it as a post-event cost, oh, by the way. And that automatically puts all of us in this room in the optional extras, budget's tight, and let's face it, it's only going to get tighter in the short term. Not going to do that. I don't know if anyone's ever brave to sit with a client and go, hang on, so you're deliberately being unsustainable. You don't want to be around in the future. It's a bit, I'm not sure I've ever said that to anyone, but I mean, technically that's what it means. On practical terms, recycling, and I guess I'd love to include repurposing of event assets in there as well. There's someone here that does this professionally in the room, but it seems hotels and venues have regressed since COVID. Not just shouldn't guests have multicolored bins in their rooms, but are we getting better at doing this stuff, reusing materials? It talks about it addresses the cost piece as well, the short term and long term. Do we think we're getting better at that as a sector?
I see it definitely, but that's because the kind of people that I work with are already bought into it, right? And I'm supporting them through that process. But what I have a bit of a bugbear with this kind of repurposing or reuse area, which is furniture and prop hire is so expensive. It's so expensive, it's cheaper to buy it new. So there's an issue there in our industry. If it was cheaper to hire, it would make a lot more sense from a sustainability and a cost efficiency perspective, but it doesn't at the moment, which is why people go to IKEA, buy 500 desks or chairs, and then those all either end up in a skip or they end up getting donated to the lovely event cycle. But yeah, ideally those wouldn't have been purchased in the first place if we could go for a more cost-efficient option.
Do we think that's going to change?
No. I say this every time because I really want someone in the room who works for a furniture hired company to reduce their costs.
Yes, please.
Please. Because then surely you would get more work from it if your options are cheaper. Yes, I don't know. That's my bugbear.
Yeah.
So maybe we can solve that in the whole hackathon.
Yeah. We have a lot of luxury clients who want bespoke things like a gorgeous drinks trolley or a plinth in a ridiculous shape or size, which you can't find off the shelf or to hire anywhere. So we have to get them custom built. But what we've got better at is, really grilling the client about what their onward use is going to be, what events have they got coming up that we can keep using this piece of art for. And then more often than not, we will be storing this stuff for them anyway. And we'll be working with the global teams, the local teams, and working across the different markets. And we'll be keeping them updated of what we have in stores for them so that, the brand in America can get that wheeled out and use it again. And it just has this onward life and starts to depreciate in carbon, if that exists.
Okay, we've got 5, 6, 7 minutes left, so it's time for 2 questions. The last one I'm going to ask you is there one thing, and what would that thing be that you would like to change? But before that, because that has come from out there, also from out there, as a venue, because I know it's very easy for us to dive into consultancy and agency world, as a venue, especially without budget for formal tools and consultancy, how do you, or how could we, I guess, realistically measure sustainability and track progress? Everyone's looking down.
I've forgotten the first part of the question by the time you got to the end of it.
As a venue,
Yeah.
especially without budget for formal tools or consultancy, and this may or may not be possible. It's the first time we've seen this question. How do you realistically measure sustainability and track progress?
Well, like you were saying earlier, it's not just carbon. We're trying to measure areas across E, S, and G, and maybe some economic areas of sustainability too. But my suggestion would be start simple, collect data that's relevant to what KPIs you want to try and measure. Some people may disagree with me here, but AI is your friend. ChatGPT can give you some really good suggestions of areas to measure that are relevant to your business type, business size, the type of venue that you organise, if you have outside space, if you don't, and can also recommend the type of data that you would need to collect in order to track against them. But I would say start off slow. It might be that you have 2 areas across E, 2 areas across S, 2 areas across G, and then just build from there. It's great that you're starting to think about this journey, and also come to events like this and talk to other venues about what they're doing. This is a great forum where you've got plenty of other venues that are probably at different parts of their sustainability journey. Try and learn from your peers and ask questions. I'm sure you've got some ideas as well as a...
Yeah, obviously you can't reduce your impact without the data initially. So it is about initially measuring and finding out what you are doing as a hotel or venue. Are you measuring, waste management, your water, your social impact, your carbon footprint? Are you doing all these things? Because you've got to find out what you are doing to start with. And most hotels and venues, in fairness, are doing a lot more than they think they're doing. We have hotels and venues coming to us and saying, we haven't even started thinking about this. Okay, let's just find out what you are doing at the moment and then look at what the low-hanging fruits are, just to start doing some simple things. And as Chrissy said, there's a lot of information out there about what venues are doing at the moment. BMA House itself, there's a lot of information as to what they are doing. We don't feel that sustainability should be a competition between hotels and venues. Hotels and venues should all be making progress along this route. Obviously, then the different certifications and how you sell it, then it becomes, the USP. But you can find out quite easily what other venues are doing. And everyone here can help you with that.
I would just add something very simple. You mentioned about peer-to-peer, but actually if you're a big venue, go and speak to the building manager, facilities manager, and actually go around the whole place, see what light bulbs are installed, see what rating the fridge freezers are, see what cycles the dishwasher is doing each day, and how much water that contains, and start to really just compile all of those key things around the venue. And then once you're armed with all of that knowledge, when you go to a partner, you'll be going through the process so fast of actually analysing the carbon footprint.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I should have said at the beginning, BMA House would be sitting here with us on this panel, but the person in question has a really understandable family emergency / commitment, so unable to sit here today. But even here, which is EcoSmart Platinum,
yep.
So top accreditation for this venue. There's one thing that always sticks in my mind, which is generally every week they have a menu and they go, hey, meetings and events clients, that's the menu. They don't have menu A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so they actually consolidate the supply chain, and we all know how food and drink can have impacts on sustainability. So, they've been brave. They've been doing it for a little while, I think. Where's Rebecca? Is that true? You've been doing it for a couple of years, and presumably you're still doing it, so there's not too much pushback, but it's a really small, simple thing that once clients understand why they haven't got a choice of 8 menus, they're probably really happy to adopt. So magic wand question. If you had a magic wand, obviously we all do, what is the one thing that you would like to see change or be implemented in 2026/7? Let's stick to event sustainability before we go off.
The price of furniture hire. Bring it down, save a lot of problems.
There we go, a succinct
Well, I think if sustainability, if you could somehow wave a wand and ensure that people didn't attach a cost to sustainability, that you could see the long-term value in it. And, you know, and I think also believe, if everyone believes that what they do does make a little bit of a difference, you know, I think it's too easy for us to say, oh, well, you know, just me doing this, what difference is it going to make?
Yeah.
But, you know, as an industry, if we all collaborate and work together, I think that's very, very important.
Yeah. Teleportation device? No, but seriously thinking, let's wave a magic wand and actually make it normal to slow down. Everything is so fast, consumption is so fast, AI is making everything faster. Can we make it a trend to just slow down and actually do slow travel over planes? Can we enjoy the small towns and neighborhoods that we pass through and invest in their local livelihood and support small businesses? Can we make that part of the event experience? And yeah, then you'll cover ES and G.
Which brings on to my last point. The magic wand is, yeah, let's not as a community all get caught up with carbon. I'm not dissing carbon. It's a brilliant and the only Lego block that we can compare our holiday in, clearly the UK, or Corsica or America or whatever, with a flight, with a banana, with an event. Right? But let's not forget that the rest of the world is looking at E and S and G. I congratulate the panel because normally everyone goes straight down the carbon route for 45 minutes. The social thing is huge for events. We're absolutely custom designed to deliver social value. Let's do it. You can now measure it as well, and as simply as the carbon. And sometimes, and some of you will identify with this, and some of you may not, if you're doing your carbon accountancy, and it's called accountancy for a reason, if you're doing your spreadsheet, it can be not soul-destroying, but not massively enthusiastic and exciting stuff. Whereas if you're delivering real social value for real human beings, and I include, like, even this event, we measured it the other day, if this event was a fully paid conference, 23% of the budget associated with this conference would be, or could be, labelled as social value. Chaps at the back doing all the AV, the people in the kitchen who have prepared that delicious breakfast, all that stuff, that's all generating value. And you can claim that as an event organiser, as social value. And so my magic wand would be, let's start shouting about the really positive things that we do for humans, as well as looking at their compliance piece. So there we go. There were 21 questions you guys sent in. We're never going to get to them all. What I will say is I'm going to ask, this is the bus bit, but they don't have to respond. I'm going to put all these questions to all of us post-event, and we'll write a joint blog answering every single question, which we'll publish via Event Industry News. Yeah. Beth, is that right? Great. So if you've asked a question, and there's some fairly pointed questions in there, one which I don't dare quite. Well, if you probably know if you're the one that sent that one in, come and talk to us after. Happy to have a go at it. But otherwise, you'll see it in Event Industry News in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll do our best to answer every single question. So the next part, please do actually show your appreciation and thank you to Sue and Chrissy and Aaron. We were talking before, as we do as panels. I mean, this is the real conversation, isn't it? Oh, I wonder if we'll get the same old questions. And of course, some of those have come, but actually some other really interesting ones, which just shows it's still evolving, keep us all on our toes. So thank you so much.